A man who truly understands his worth never operates from a place of desperation. He does not tie his sense of value to whether or not someone decides to text him back. The moment he allows himself to be affected by the absence of a response, he has already lost. Not because of the lack of a message, but because of the internal shift that happens when he starts questioning his own importance based on someone else's action. Desperation is a repellent. It signals to the world that you are in need, that you lack something, that your confidence is fragile enough to be dictated by something as small as a delayed text. When you let yourself fall into the trap of overanalyzing why someone hasn't responded, you are shifting the focus away from yourself and placing it onto an external factor that you have no control over. And when you give away control, you give away power. Power comes from certainty. It comes from knowing that you are enough whether someone acknowledges you or not. It comes from understanding that your time, energy, and attention are valuable and that no single interaction or lack of one can determine your self-worth. A man who embraces his power does not check his phone every 5 minutes hoping for a response. He does not sit in a state of anxiety wondering what he did wrong. He does not create imaginary scenarios in his head, trying to decode what the silence means. Instead, he recognizes that true power lies in his ability to remain unaffected. He understands that the way he reacts to situations, big or small, defines the kind of man he is. When he does not receive a text, he does not spiral into self-doubt or frustration. He does not feel the need to send another message just to confirm he is still acknowledged. He does not engage in emotional bargaining, trying to justify why he deserves a response. He simply continues, he moves forward, completely detached from the outcome. He remains grounded in his own sense of worth because he does not seek external validation. He knows that the right people, the ones who respect and value him, will make the effort to communicate. And the ones who don't, they eliminate themselves from his life, saving him time and energy. Men who operate from a place of desperation make themselves too available. They become predictable, eager, and too willing to chase something that should come naturally. They fail to see that the more they try to force attention, the less they receive it. But a man who embodies power understands the law of attraction. People are drawn to those who do not need them. The more you focus on yourself, the more others will focus on you. When you carry yourself with the energy of a man who does not require external reassurance, you stand out. People notice. They wonder why you are so unbothered, why you are not like the rest who crave attention. That mystery, that confidence, that ability to remain centered regardless of what happens around you, that is what sets you apart. So when you don't receive a text, what do? You continue living. You stay busy. You stay focused on your purpose, your goals, and your growth. You channel your energy into things that actually build you rather than waste it on things that deplete you. The moment you let go of the need for a response is the moment you reclaim your power. A man who embraces his power does not wait. He does not chase. He does not shrink. He stands firm, knowing that his worth is not determined by a message, but by the way he carries himself in every aspect of his life. One of the biggest mistakes a man can make is placing his sense of worth in the hands of others. When you rely on external approval, whether through words, actions, or even something as simple as a text message, you give away your personal power. You allow your emotional state to be dictated by something outside of your control. And when you do that, you are no longer operating from a place of strength. A man who is driven by approval is a man who is easily manipulated. He is constantly seeking reassurance, constantly looking for signs that he is valued, constantly trying to measure his importance based on how others respond to him. But here's the truth. Seeking approval is a bottomless pit. No amount of validation will ever be enough for a man who does not already believe in his own worth. The alternative is to shift focus. Instead of chasing approval, he must direct his energy towards something far more powerful, his purpose. Because when a man has a mission, when he is deeply committed to something greater than himself, he does not have time to dwell on who is or isn't texting him back. His mind is consumed with his vision, his goals, his own personal evolution. Purpose is what separates men who are respected from men who are overlooked. The world does not admire those who sit around waiting for recognition. The world admires those who are so focused on their path that recognition becomes a byproduct of their success. When a man is aligned with his purpose, everything else takes a back seat. He does not wake up wondering if someone will acknowledge him today. He wakes up with the intention to build, to create, to move forward. Men who seek approval live in a cycle of emotional highs and lows. When they receive attention, they feel important. When they don't, they feel insignificant. This dependency makes them weak, reactive, and uncertain. They become prisoners to the opinions and responses of others. But men who prioritize purpose do not experience these fluctuations. Their self-worth is rooted in their work, in their vision, in the impact they are creating. Their fulfillment comes from progress, not from someone else's recognition of it. Shifting focus to purpose also builds resilience. A man who is deeply engaged in his mission does not crumble at the slightest sign of rejection. He does not let a lack of response shake his confidence. He understands that his value is not determined by momentary interactions, but by the long-term legacy he is building. His mind is too occupied with creation, innovation, and self-improvement to waste time wondering why someone hasn't texted back. The problem with seeking approval is that it creates a cycle of dependency. When you base your confidence on whether or not people acknowledge you, you become addicted to validation. You become a puppet to external opinions, constantly adjusting your actions in the hopes of being seen, heard, or appreciated. This is a weak position to operate from because it means your confidence is never truly your own. It is always at the mercy of others. But when you shift your focus to purpose, you break free from this cycle. You stop looking outward for affirmation and start looking inward for direction. You begin to measure your success not by how many people respond to you, but by how much progress you are making toward your goals. You start to value your own opinion of yourself more than the fleeting attention of others. A man who is deeply connected to his purpose does not chase. He does not beg for attention. He does not need to be constantly reassured that he is important. He simply moves forward, fully aware that his worth is not something that can be granted or taken away by anyone. One of the most powerful principles a man can understand is that what is rare is valuable and what is overly available is taken for granted. This applies to everything in life: resources, opportunities, and most importantly, human relationships. The moment you become too accessible, too eager, too readily available, you diminish your perceived worth. But when you hold back, when you maintain a sense of exclusivity, you increase your value in the eyes of others. Many men make the mistake of believing that the more effort they show, the more they chase, the more they remind someone of their presence, the more they will be appreciated. But the truth is, the more you overextend yourself, the less desirable you become. When you are constantly available, constantly responding immediately, constantly checking in, you communicate one thing: you have nothing better to do. And if you have nothing better to do, why should anyone prioritize you? Scarcity creates demand. The most desirable things in life are the ones that are not easily obtained. Look at the world's most expensive brands, the rarest gems, the most sought-after experiences. They are valued precisely because they are not within everyone's immediate reach. The same applies to people. A man who is not always available, a man who is selective with his time and attention, a man who is focused on his own growth and not desperate for connection, that is a man who draws people in without even trying. When a man understands this principle, he stops seeking constant validation. He does not flood someone's inbox with messages. He does not double text when he doesn't get a response. He does not let silence create insecurity within him. Instead, he remains grounded in the fact that his presence is a privilege, not something to be handed out freely. He recognizes that his time, energy, and attention are assets, and he does not waste them on people who do not recognize their worth. Being scarce does not mean playing games or intentionally ignoring people. It means being deeply involved in your own life to the point where you are naturally unavailable. It means being so engaged in your mission, your goals, and your own self-improvement that your absence is felt. When you are always present, always accessible, always the first to reach out, you remove any sense of intrigue. But when you operate with purpose, they start to wonder where you are, what you're doing, and why you are not seeking their attention. Scarcity forces others to step up. When someone realizes that you are not easily reached, that you are not always waiting around for them, they begin to put in effort. They start to value your time because they see that it is not freely given. The people who genuinely care, the ones who truly appreciate you, will make the effort to stay in your life. The ones who don't, they will fade away, and that is exactly how it should be. Most men fail at this because they fear losing connection. They believe that if they do not constantly remind someone of their presence, they will be forgotten. But the opposite is true. The more someone has to work for your time, the more they will appreciate it. The more they have to wonder about you, the more you occupy their thoughts. The more they have to earn your attention, the more they will value it when they get it. A man who is scarce is a man who is respected. He is not the one waiting by his phone. He is not the one chasing. He is the one living his life, knowing that those who truly see his worth will make the effort to be part of it. One of the greatest marks of a strong man is his ability to control his emotions rather than let his emotions control him. Most men react impulsively to situations, especially when they feel ignored, rejected, or undervalued. They let frustration, insecurity, and doubt dictate their actions. They lash out, overcompensate, or spiral into desperation. But a man who has mastered his emotions does not fall into these traps. He remains in control no matter the circumstances. When a man does not receive a text back, his initial reaction might be disappointment. He might feel a sudden urge to check his phone, reread old messages, or come up with reasons why he was ignored. His mind starts filling in the gaps, creating stories that don't even exist. Maybe she's not interested. Maybe he said something wrong. Maybe he needs to send another text just to clear things up. This is emotional weakness in action. It's the impulse to react before thinking, the need to seek external validation to soothe internal discomfort. A man who has developed emotional mastery does not operate this way. He does not let something as trivial as a delayed response disrupt his mental state. He understands that his feelings are his responsibility, not someone else's. He does not allow the actions or inactions of others to dictate his mood, confidence, or sense of self-worth. Instead, he remains grounded, unaffected, and in control of his response. There is power in restraint. When you feel the urge to react but you choose not to, you are asserting dominance over your emotions. You are proving to yourself that you are not a slave to impulse, that you do not need external reassurance to feel complete. Most men seek closure, clarity, or some form of response to make themselves feel better. But a man in control does not need that. He is content with uncertainty. He does not demand explanations or force interactions. He simply acknowledges the situation and moves forward without attachment. Emotional mastery is also about maintaining perspective. When a man feels ignored, his ego often takes the hit first. He personalizes the situation, assuming it is a direct reflection of his worth. But in reality, other people's actions have little to do with him. People get busy, they get distracted, they have their own life struggles and priorities. Sometimes they simply aren't thinking about you, and that is okay. A man with emotional discipline does not immediately jump to negative conclusions. He does not allow himself to be consumed by self-doubt or overanalyze what he could have done differently. He understands that his value does not diminish just because someone else fails to recognize it. This ability to remain centered also applies to relationships and social dynamics. Many men destroy their chances by overreacting. They send passive-aggressive texts trying to provoke a response. They double text out of impatience. They start behaving differently, shifting their energy in an attempt to regain control of the situation. But in doing so, they only make themselves look weak and emotionally unstable. A man who is truly confident does not play these games. He does not let momentary emotions dictate long-term actions. He does not chase attention. He does not beg for acknowledgement. He simply carries on, unaffected and unbothered. Another aspect of emotional mastery is self-awareness. A man who understands his emotions does not suppress them. He acknowledges them, but he does not let them dictate his behavior. If he feels disappointed or frustrated, he recognizes those feelings, but does not act on them impulsively. He processes them rationally, understanding that emotions are temporary and should not be the driving force behind his decisions. Men who lack emotional control are easily manipulated. When someone can trigger you, they can control you. If a delayed text or lack of response is enough to throw you off balance, you're at the mercy of external forces. But a man who has mastered his emotions cannot be controlled this way. He is unwavering, stable, and unaffected by minor inconveniences. He operates from a place of self-assurance rather than neediness. Ultimately, emotional mastery is about discipline. It is about training yourself to remain composed no matter the situation. It is about recognizing that your reaction to events is more important than the events themselves. It is about choosing to remain in control when most men would crumble. It is about understanding that true power comes not from forcing outcomes, but from mastering yourself first.